Hello everyone. I recently got a mic arm and I think it is incredible because now I don't have to hold my microphone when I'm speaking now. I can just speak directly to you. A lot has happened over the past 2 weeks. As you know from the last video, Japan has decided again to close its borders down and then reopen them only for residents and Japanese citizens. There's this big kind of dichotomy there. Even people from the World Health Organization are seeing it defeats the whole purpose of having a blanket travel ban like that. That was last time. This time, in terms of the border, everyone's going day by day. What happened today is they're making it easier for people to enter. They're now doing a more paperless thing, as I saw in an article today. In terms of different things on the internet right now, is they're unsure about when Japan is going to reopen its borders again. According to this article by News SD, it basically says the same thing that we've heard from the beginning. We don't know too much about the Omicron variant. Until then, Japan's borders are going to remain closed until further notice, or basically till December 31st. However, there's another part of this article that kind of asks the question, is the Omicron variant a cause for concern? According to the article, a South African doctor who initially found the Omicron variant noted that the patient with the new strain had very mild symptoms that typically lasted 2 or 3 days. The most common symptoms included body aches, a scratchy throat, and headaches. That sounds just like, you know, a little bit worse than a common cold, depending on who you are, of course. Most doctors that have seen this, according to this article, most of them are seeing very, very mild symptoms, and none of them so far have been admitted for surgery or have been put in the ER. That's kind of where the Japan border is right now. On the Borderlink side, I want you guys to know that your boy got his certificate of eligibility. I got an email from the Japanese government, well, kind of the Japanese government, the immigration part of the Japanese government, and they said, yo, here's your application number, here's your acceptance number, blah, 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 blah. Hold on to this. We're still kind of processing you, but we want you to know that you meet the requirements. I'm getting in contact with the Japan consulate here in Hawaii, and depending on what they say and what happens, that's going to be kind of what the plan is for the foreseeable future. Other than that, recently there was a talk, or rather a Q&A with Borderlink. God, there's like 57 questions that people ask about like daily life and stuff. Maybe I'll make a complete video about this, but in terms of what happened with the general questions being asked, I think one of the most important ones is, and that they answered it, was that with the new COVID variant, are there going to be delays with departure or new rules? And I think that's a really good question. Borderlink answered, we don't know. Everyone, including the government, that's what they're saying, is going day by day right now. We're kind of seeing how this plays out. The Japanese government is seeing how it plays out. The people, we're eagerly awaiting what's going to happen. I think there's another question of note, and this actually stems from a question that was asked early on in the channel's conception. It was, are there opportunities to work in the summer, or do you get paid in the summer? And one of the people asked, I would like to know if there's any teaching opportunities during the long break when schools aren't in session. They answered, yes, some ALTs work at summer camps and places like that. Just check online. I believe, depending on the school that you're a part of, you can ask them to see if they have any opportunities in terms of teaching in the summertime, or any camps that they're doing. And obviously it's going to depend on prefecture to prefecture, but I'm sure a lot of schools have a need for a foreigner to teach English in the summer. Another question of note is about the quarantine stay duration. And currently, what they're saying, right, because someone asked, is the duration of the quarantine 14 days for fully vaccinated people? As we know right now, is what they're saying. As mentioned, presently, if you have one of the 3 government-approved vaccinations, quarantine will be 10 days instead of 14 days. Presently, it may change by the time you come because of Japan and the whole Omicron variant and whatnot. I think another great question that was asked that day that I have right here, it says, should we have to quarantine? Will Borderlink cover this? And Borderlink said yes, they will cover it. The only thing that we need to do is pay for the food. And those seem like the most pertinent questions, ones that are kind of tackling certain things that have been asked of me or about the quarantine that's happening right now. So there was a whole nother newsletter dropped, Borderlink newsletter 4. And within the newsletter, there were things such as some different Japanese cultural things about the winter time as it is the season, the things that are happening next in terms of the Borderlink process. The Borderlink friendship campaign is still in full swing. If you have yet to apply to Borderlink and you've always wanted to teach in Japan, I recommend applying to them. QR code right here. Some more great festival information in the winter, such as the Snow Monster Festival, which is I find very interesting. There's a phenomenon in Japan called a lucky bag, and it's basically, you probably know what gacha is, right? It's basically, you pay money and you get a certain amount of pulls, and out of that pull, there might be something great in there. Lucky bags are the real-life form of gacha. So you can go buy a lucky bag from a retailer, and in that bag will either be things that are less or greater than the value that you paid. Lucky bags. Real-life gacha. They go over how to get an apartment in Japan, and the steps and the processes and the certain cultural things that you'll need for that. And then they also go over some different living options, just in case of, living by yourself, or you have a friend over there that you'd want to live with is kind of more viable for you, then do those things. But they have some more options for you in that regard. And last but not least, the Japanese language for this time around is just some certain school items, and also the Jiko Shokai, which is your self-introduction, a basic self-introduction. So if you don't know how to do those things, it kind of walks you through how to do those things. And that basically covers the Borderlink newsletter. On another note, I'm feeling all kinds of things right now. One of them is a little bit fearful that I won't be able to enter Japan when I'm supposed to. Part of the contract that I signed says if you aren't able to show up on the day that we start, then you're gonna be either terminated or something else might happen. And that's what I'm scared of, is that I've waited so long to do this, and then Japan closes its borders and then I'm unable to get there, so I basically lose my opportunity to go to Japan. Not to say that I won't ever get another one, but basically I'm just saying, man, wouldn't that be a shame? I'm slowly, I'm not gonna say being worn down, but I'm seeing a side of Japan that is not so glamorous. In my own opinion, of course. There are things in the news right now that says that this current prime minister actually got some big ups from the Japanese people for locking down the border. And I was even talking to one of my friends who lives in Japan right now, and there's this idea that they don't really need the foreigners. There's not been a huge outcry for people in Japan, for people from outside of Japan to come in. Unless, it's like for family or something. It's become a big thing, at least in my eyes. Seeing some of these people on, different social medias talk about how they've given up on Japan because they feel unwanted. They don't feel like, Japan is this glamorous country that they thought it to be. It's not so much of like, wow, we welcome the foreigners. It's so much more like we tolerate them. And I think that's what's the most disheartening. People have spent a majority of their young adult life or even their adult life learning the language, going to school for things like this, only to be turned down by a seeming government that doesn't really care about them. I'm far be it for me to judge, but I see it and it really breaks my heart. I'm still holding on to hope. I know that Borderlink is still moving forward, and I'm going to move forward too. I think that's the only thing we can do in this time, right? That this is just a momentary, temporary setback. One day we're gonna look at this and it's not gonna be such a big deal. So keep moving forward, keep fighting, keep believing, hold on to hope, and I'll see you in Japan. Thank you so much for coming here. If you enjoy these things, if you enjoy the content that I make, please subscribe. I would love to have you as part of the community. Give me your thoughts, comment in the comment section. Tell me everything that I don't know, because I'm still learning all of this as well. But I'd love to have you here. I'd love for you to be a part of this great, amazing adventure that we're going on. But with that said, I'll see you in a few weeks. I love you all. Bye.